I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your cattle market summary for the week ending November the 22nd, where we got the results from the October placements on Friday's cattle on feed report. The on feed report was neutral to slightly friendly a little bit, but evidently some of your people that speculators that were betting on the report thought that it was going to be awful bearish with and mainly because of October placements, because they kind of sold the board off there on Friday, and then your algorithms took over and tanked it on Friday. We should see that bounce back here early this week, and if there's any righteousness, that will do that. But look at that cattle on feed report that come out on Friday, and you saw that your November 1st on feed inventories come in at 101.1% of the same report a year ago. That was very, very close to what the average of the analyst guess was at 101.3. Your placements in October, and that's the big number, and it always is anymore, but we expected them to be big, and they were, but they weren't quite as big as what the analysts had predicted they would be. They come in at 110.2% of last year, compared to the expectation average, which was 112.2. So that's 2 full percentage points, and that's where your friendliness comes into the market. Your marketings of fat cattle during the month of October come in very close. Of course, we know how many cattle they harvest every day, but 99.4% compared to 99.6. But the reasons on that placement, and I'm going to give some credit to a report called the Daily Livestock Report. If you guys don't look at that, at times it can be very interesting on cattle. It does look at your other livestock or your hogs for the most part, but it does sometimes include chickens and things like that. But it's published by the CME Group, and it's a very informative report, and it kind of backs up with some analytics and some data proven things as to what you notice if you're paying attention and looking around as you're going through the country. But there's 3 main reasons why our placements were so big in October. It's not that we have, more calves, because we've already proven with data that our calf crop is not any bigger, and most of us know that as many cows and heifers as we've been harvesting, that it's actually smaller. We just haven't seen the results of that yet. But we had 3 main reasons why that was so much bigger on your placements. But your spring fat board was rallying during October. So it caused some of these guys that they're wanting to put cattle on feed, they're hedging them. It was an opportunity there to buy some lighter weights that were starting to show up around, and they could put them right on feed. And so they started doing that because they could lock in something that would that looked like it might work. And then your second reason is folks kept cattle on grass longer because we had better pasture conditions than what we had the previous year, and it was at least normal or better. So people were holding on to their cattle longer and really getting that cheap gain on them. And then the final reason, of course, was your August plant fire there at Tyson-Finney County just cratered the market out there in mid-August, and it took more than a month for that to recover enough where people felt comfortable taking their cattle to the sale, because some of those people that had already consigned their cattle, even feeder cattle or even calves, to an auction there right after that plant fire, they really took it in the shorts, and there's no justification for that, but there just weren't any bids out there. All your corporate feeders were completely out of the market after that because there was so much uncertainty with what was going on. So people took a beating on that. So it took over a month there so people to get their confidence in taking cattle to the sale back. And so then you had a lot of cattle to market, a lot of calves, spring-born calves, the big ones, to market through October. But we saw that Texas and Kansas October placements were both 14% higher than the same time a year ago, and despite imports from Mexico being down about 5.5%. So that was kind of interesting, but just that many more cattle moving and putting a lot lighter weights on there as they looked affordable. There's just not as many growers out there right now because cattle haven't worked the last 2 or 3 years. Growing cattle, stocking cattle, things like that have not really worked, and so you got fewer players out there willing to risk their money and get in. And so then you've got the guys that are going to do it anyway, see an opportunity in the market because these lighter weights are just not selling as high as they should be in relation to what the board is, to what corn is, and to what the fat cattle market is down the road. But just got back from Oregon, was in Bend, Oregon over the weekend at the Oregon Cattlemen's Association. A lot of good folks out there, a lot of Feeder Flash gang members. Met a whole pile of them there on Friday night whenever I showed up. We had a good visit there, and it's always fun to meet people from places I've never been before that like to watch this program here and kind of keep up with the commercial markets, and just had a really good time out there. Gave a talk to them on Saturday at the main session there. Had an opportunity to go out and look around the country with Todd Muller with Western Livestock Video there, and we went out and he was showing some cows that were close to Bend there, the Y-Bell cows, and they're going to have a big herd reduction, and it's going to be on this next big Western Video Market sale on December the 4th out of Reno, Nevada. But look at some of these cows, and it's unbelievable. They've got around 700 head of these cows. They've got 6-year-olds and older. There's like 9 loads of these 6-year-old cows. They got a lot of life left to them. They've got the 8s, 9s, and 10s to sell too. But that might be something you might want to put on your calendar for December the 4th, the big Western Video Market sale out of Reno. And these cows and a lot of other good cattle are going to be on that sale. Let's talk about your board for the week last week. December live cattle futures. Monday was down 40 cents, Tuesday up 7, Wednesday up 52 cents, Thursday up 2 cents, Friday down 65. Really didn't do much at all. So we ended up with December live cattle contracts ending the week at 118.67, getting closer to what our cash market is, so narrowing the negative basis there right now. But it was down 43 cents for the week, and we're probably going to see that drift a little lower. Maybe we'll gain another buck in the fats and at least get back to option on the basis. But February contracts ended the week at 123.85. That looks pretty good out there, but that was off $1.12. But you see the big drop off after you go from April to June, and that's how come these middle to lighter weight calves that you have to go right to the feedlot with are just not bringing anywhere near what people would really like to have for them. But the April to June drop off on trying to hedge those cattle on the fat board is $9. If you go April out to August, it's $11 cheaper. So that's why you see the big disparage in the prices there. Your fat cattle trade for the week last week, most of it happened on Wednesday. We saw a little bit of cleanup trade on Thursday, not a whole lot more on Friday, but through Thursday, 76,700. There'll be a few more sales there on Friday to kind of clean up. We may get close to 90,000, but wouldn't get any more than that. But the Southern Plains sold most all their cattle at 116, which was $1 higher. So that's good, still gaining ground. Your Northern Plains, eastern side there on live sales, 115 to 116. That was steady, but on a dress basis, $184 like in eastern Nebraska and in Iowa, places like that. 184 dress, that was $2 better. So gain ground there. And then western Nebraska, Colorado, and out there, 117, which was $1 higher. But you look at your range of prices on a live basis on steers and heifers in your 5-area feeding region, negotiated 114 to 117.50. mostly 115 to 117 with a weighted average through Thursday of 115.96, and we'll see what we add to that here whenever the final weekly report comes out on Monday. On a dress basis, your steers and heifers ranged 179 to 184 through the 5 areas, mostly all at 184 though. And your weighted average on dress steers was 183.56 through Thursday. Box beef cutout values finally peaked out. They peaked out not last week but the previous week, and drifted quite a bit lower this week. Like I've said a couple of times, you know, you got to think what's down the road a little ways. They were preparing for a lot of holiday demand as people going out to their holiday parties, they're out shopping, they're eating in the restaurants more, and all that kind of thing. And they've got those shelves filled, they got those orders filled. Now we're starting to back off. Now we're right on top of Thanksgiving here. Choice cuts, your average trade for last week was $236.75, down $391. Now that still has a right for a fat cattle market that's a whole lot higher than what we're trading at right now, and might have to whittle just a little bit on those giant packer margins that they've been enjoying here for the last year or two. But select cuts, your average trade for last week, $214.20, down $1.32 compared to the average of the select cuts the previous week. Choice select spread finally starting to narrow a little bit. It's been running so outrageously high through the time of year that it doesn't normally do that. But choice select spread at $22.55, and just a moderate movement of 578 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Your slaughter for last week, 662,000 is what they estimated. That would be 5,000 more than the previous week, and you can't really compare with a year ago because that was Thanksgiving week a year ago. But looking at some of your big high volume sales coming in this Monday, we had huge sales in Oklahoma last week. The stockyards, the city in Oklahoma City, had 13,500 there. Huge sale for them. OKC West around 14,000 for their 2-day sale there. And Joplin is going to sure catch up with them this Monday here. Today, Monday. Joplin Regional Stockyards expecting 12,000 head, and they're going to have mostly yearlings, 8,000 head. It's a big yearling special. True yearlings, guys, not just calendar yearlings. I mean cattle that are sure enough yearlings, been turned out, split tails, got a little age to them, hard cattle. They don't even remember what their mothers looked like or smelled like, but they're sure enough yearlings, been running together, strings and strings and strings of them, guys, all day long. Be a lot of commodity cattle there that you can probably hedge and will feed like crazy too. There'll be a lot of higher quality cattle there that can go north with. There'll just be just about anything you need to find there at Joplin Regional Stockyards, starting bright and early here on Monday morning at 5:30. They do not jack around at JRS right there. So get right in. They'll be selling load lots and bigger before 7. I guarantee you. Get on Joplin or get on dvauction.com, view and bid that sale right there. If they're running too fast for you, call in an order to one of your buyers there, or get ready to start clicking on your bid button there. But big sale at Joplin Regional Stockyards here on Monday. Let's talk about your market from last week. Your real-time index ended the week at 143.57. That was $2.06 lower than it ended the previous week. So we lost a couple of dollars through the week. A lot of that due to sheer volume. Just a lot of big calves moving. Not that many true yearlings, and like I said, the sale at Joplin is just uncharacteristically heavy on the yearlings. But in that part of the country there, they background cattle year round, and so you'll find some true yearlings when you don't in other places. But your cash feeders last week in your auctions, mostly calves, up through the middle 12 states and through the central parts of the country, steady to $3 lower for the most part with heavy volume. I did notice that most of your southeastern markets were firm to $4 higher on your peewee calves. Guys are starting to see that these peewee calves are too cheap comparatively, and it's hard to find big numbers of them, and so they're calling their shippers in the southeast and ordering peewee calves, which I consider 4.5 and down, little bitty calves, and we sure saw an uptick on the prices for them. How about some peewee calves way up in the northern plains? St. Onge Livestock, St. Onge, South Dakota, 133 head string of 465-pound steer calves bring 180, 150. Here's a market I've never talked about before, but on DB Auction and sharing their market here with us. Verdigris, Nebraska, Verdigris Stockyards, 52 head, weighed 621 pounds at $161. That's sure nothing to sneeze about. And then how about a market right there in the central to eastern side of Kansas, Fort Scott, Kansas, on Saturday, 61 head of 830-pound yearling steers bring $150.25. That's a look at your week's markets from a home DB Auction office here in Canyon, Texas. We'll talk to you next week.